In 2092, climate changes have ravaged most of the plants in the Earth to the extent that Earth is almost not habitable anymore. A firm called UTS constructs a new orbiting home for humanity which has mimicked all the natural processes on Earth. However, only some chosen few get to stay in this place, and fewer get to become citizens. Those who are still on Earth have to endure polluted air, very high taxes, and extreme poverty. Founder of UTS Sullivan, working on transforming Mars into a new Earth by cultivating genetically modified plants, goes to a gaggle of reporters and reeks of a bunch of fantastic plans. He announces that the grand opening of a Mars colony is going to be soon. One of the journalists calls him a liar because thus far, projects only benefited the atoll to copyright light and had thousands of others left on Earth as well as millions of debris orbiting in the space flying by bullets. Laborers called space sweepers have to expose themselves to dying in order to clean that all up, selling what they collect to make a living. Sullivan admits his plans aren't perfect and agrees to have a talk with the reporter in private. On Earth, Tae-ho is desperate to find his daughter and tries to pay the authorities with the little rice he has left to let him see the latest body that arrived to the morgue. They are accustomed to this happening a lot and take him to the morgue, but again it is a false alarm. The next day a huge piece of debris crashes with a satellite near the solar battery charging area. A group of space sweepers hurries to get hold of it with their ships, but they are suddenly interrupted by the arrival of a ship known as Victory. Android Bubs gets on top of the ship, throws a harpoon with the rope attached to the piece of debris, then Victory takes off, and the rest of the sweepers start to chase them. Bubs rolls the rope into the ship so that it will bring in the debris, and Tiger takes control of the ship's machinery, making it move fast and well. When the other ships close in and try to take the loot, Captain Jang uses Victory's arm to shoo them off without much fuss. Then, pilot Tae-ho takes it up a notch by flying Victory around the solar panels, with tight spaces flown through in a daring attempt at evading their pursuers and ensuring they were not followed. This causes them almost to crash into the residential area, but Tae-ho manages to move the ship in time, and they only break an antenna. Then they enter the factory, which is a waste management satellite. Tae-ho sells all the materials they've gathered, but the pay is poor, and on top of that, they must pay for the antenna and the corresponding taxes. At the end, the team is left in debt. Tae-ho reacts badly and is threatened with the clerk's knife to calm him down. On TV, the news flash show a missing sign for an android called Dorothy, who was stolen from UTS 2 days ago by extremists known as Black Foxes. The girl looks innocent but she's actually a weapon, so if civilians see her, they should call security instead of approaching her. However, Tae-ho doesn't pay much attention and leaves. That evening, the tension is high among the Victory crew because of their debt situation. An argument ensues and it soon becomes an actual fight that leaves the humans unconscious. Bubs puts all her money away in a box, revealing she's the only person that has properly saved. She dreams of gaining a better body complete with synthetic skin. Later on, the crew heads out to work on debris they collected for it to eventually be revealed it was a badly damaged ship, yet surprisingly in such a good shape as it came from an area containing lots of nanobots eating metal up. Suddenly, some lights turn on inside the ship, so they open up the cargo box and watch a bunch of airbags float out. Hidden among them, they're shocked to see Dorothy. They take her into Victory, and Tae-ho can't help thinking about his own daughter when he looks at her. At that moment the news show the missing ad again, and the crew gets scared hearing she's a weapon. They run for cover fast when she opens her mouth, but however, she is just sneezing. Then the crew runs to hide in their rooms and decides how to proceed. Tae-ho comes out again to try to tie her up, but the moment she makes a move he gets scared and hides behind some metal. It is at that moment that he notices she has a bag. He grabs it and takes it to his room to examine its contents. There's a phone with lots of missed calls for someone named Dr. Kang and some paperwork from UTS with the same name. The crew decides to fly toward one of the residential district for non-citizens. They leave the ship but Dorothy stays behind, and when she's alone, she reveals a power that causes a dead plant to bloom. Meanwhile, the crew goes to a bar and discusses what to do. Tiger tried calling the police and was left unwaiting. but Tae-ho thinks they can make good money by selling Dorothy to the Black Foxes. An argument ensues, and once they all reach an agreement, Tae-ho takes out a machine that distorts his voice and isn't traceable. He calls Dr. Kang and shows him a video of Dorothy, asking for $2 million in exchange for the girl. Kang immediately agrees to pay, and they decide on a meeting spot. While the crew dresses up for the exchange, an alert rings in the computer, revealing the police are coming. They immediately take off the disguises and hide the girl, acting normal right before an officer comes aboard. The cop explains his station got a call from the ship and notices Tiger gesturing at someone behind the door. With a taser in hand, he enters the room to search for anything suspicious, but Dorothy sneaks around and always stays hidden. Tae-ho takes some of Bob's savings and puts in the cop's hand before the guy pushes him away. However, the money is still in his hands and Bob's filmed everything, so Jang threatens to inform on him until he leaves. Later, Tae-ho and Tiger put on the costumes again and go to a club in the commercial district for the exchange. While Tiger keeps Dorothy safe in a bag, Tae-ho moves to meet with Kang, who surprises him from behind and checks his weapons before telling him to move. In the balcony nearby, some guys are getting ready to shoot. The duo meets with Tiger and Kang hands him the suitcase filled with the money, but when they open the bag they find Dorothy is gone. The girl is walking through the dancing crowd when suddenly they all freeze as they see a child. At that moment, everyone's devices begin to show Dorothy's missing ad and they step back in fear. The guards open fire and Tae-ho drags her out of the way just in time, but the shots destroy the DJ booth and chaos ensues as everyone runs away in panic. Kang keeps trying to reach Dorothy, but the running crowd pushes him along. As Tae-ho and Tiger keep looking for Kang, a guard notices them and fires right at them. However, Dorothy's power creates a shield that dissolves all the bullets. The guards still keep on shooting until there's not a single presence left in the room, thinking they've killed their objectives. However, the boys have gone away with Dorothy and are making their escape into victory now. Since the damage the vessel, they'll have to hibernate in factory. When questioned by Jang about why it failed, she destroys Dorothy's phone, thinking guards used that on them to get them caught. She saved number on Kang's cell with her communicator. In the meantime, Sullivan is chatting with his scientist team about the nanobots on Mars that are trying to build plants and even an ocean. Someone brought him Dorothy's goggles from the club and he keeps staring at them as he scolds his team, saying they must find evidence that there's no hope on Earth. His veins gain a dark color as he wiggles in pain. Sometime later, Dorothy asks Tae-ho for scissors and uses them to cut off the tomatoes that have grown on the plant. Tae-ho is impressed and takes Dorothy with him to sell them to other sweepers, making some money but also bonding in the process. Afterward, it's Bob's turn to watch over Dorothy and they share makeup. As they speak, Bob's scan reveals something of Dorothy that nobody knows but the girl. Changing subject matter, inquires about Tae-ho. Bob's told her Tae-ho was a child soldier, and throughout his entire life, he experienced nothing else except violence. In one such operation, Tae-ho's group murdered the mother and there was this baby in the mother's dead body arms, and instead of returning her to Earth, as the rules dictated, he decides to adopt her as his daughter. Later, he finds out that the accident from the mission had made her deaf and that he was solely responsible for it. From then on, he could not hurt people anymore. Thus, UTS fired him off and they end up in a very poor neighborhood. One evening, when Tae-ho was trying to make some money, his daughter wandered away. Suddenly some space debris crashed in the neighborhood, killing thousands of people and sending the others running in panic. In the chaos, Tae-ho couldn't find his daughter and watched in horror how part of the town flew away into space. Later, the authorities explained they had about 3 years to find the body. After that, there would be zero chance of recovery because the debris would be too far away. A search company could be hired to find her quickly, but he couldn't afford them. To this day, Tae-ho is still looking for her. That's why he joined a sweeper crew. Bobs is interrupted from telling his story when some court agents find her along with Dorothy. At that moment, the ship's phone begins to ring and Tae-ho tries to rush for it, but the agents stop him. A desperate Tae-ho just pushes them away and manages to get the call, during which he agrees to a new meeting with Kang. Unfortunately, the court agents take Victory and declare it now belongs to the bank due to the crew's debt. Privately, Tiger confesses he doesn't want to sell Dorothy anymore because he is afraid of what they will do to her. However, Tae-ho needs the money to look for his daughter and the crew to get the ship back. During Dorothy's time in the bathroom, a man goes in after her. Suddenly, they hear her scream and realize she's kidnapped. The crew immediately starts to look for her, and as Tiger remembers the tunnels, he leaps into them in search of a man taking Dorothy away. Tiger loses them after a chase and Tae-ho just barely arrives in time to take Dorothy from the abductor by surprise. Then the man pulls out a knife, but Tae-ho manages to knock him to the ground by using his training as a soldier. Unfortunately, the man isn't alone and other masked robbers come out simultaneously with Tiger, who returns angry and beats all of them up in just a few minutes. Jang also comes and unmasks the leader, discovering the clerk who usually buys their debris. Meanwhile, Sullivan sits down with a reporter who accuses him of draining Earth's resources. Sullivan maintains that he did not select any citizen based on their economic capacity. Instead, his system did DNA tests so that he only chose people that have the good genes. On this note, the reporter stated that UTS is killing Earth due to its massive waste output in space as well as bleeding Earth's economic resources dry. Getting creepy, Sullivan starts telling how he saw everyone in his village die when he was young and he lost his family, so since then he promised he would make humanity better. At the same time, his guards bring an unconscious black fox and drop him on the floor. Sullivan offers a reporter an immigrant visa for him to shoot the vulpine-like beast, and at some internal questioning, he fires it off. Sullivan proceeds to slaughter that man now who is having color changes over the skin. Reuniting to their team, they clash with some human abductors when Dorothy steps in and hastens her path to a small room that functions just like toilets, which Jang recognizes robots never pass, leading the inference Dorothy being a human, who is further identified through Bubs' words. Then she uses special light to unveil the tattoos of kidnappers, showing them to be black foxes. The group explains that the foxes aren't terrorists but rather an environmental organization. Dorothy was born with an illness, destroying her nerves, and her father Kang injected nanobots into her body. These mended her nerves but also bestowed her with superpowers to germinate plants, meaning she could cure Earth and Sullivan's Mars project wouldn't be required. When Sullivan got wind of Dorothy, he sent his men to assassinate her. Labs and scientists were annihilated who worked with her, but Dorothy couldn't be killed because the only way to kill a nanobot is to use a hydrogen bomb. Such a bomb can be found inside the factory's anti-gravity system, so the soldiers want to put her there and blow it up. Then the factory would crash on Earth and cause enough natural and nuclear disasters to finally put an end to it. In short, Sullivan wants to cleanse humanity. Suddenly, they hear some gunshots and find that the soldiers have finally reached the factory and are searching for them by beating up anyone on whom they stumble. The foxes escape through the back door while Jang and Tiger walk routinely through the corridors as if they're ordinary workers. Tae-ho takes Dorothy and they run through the vents, but Dorothy sneezes and the soldier catches them there. They start moving faster as the soldier opens fire and Jang creates a distraction by activating Victory. Tae-ho and Dorothy manage to make it to a bridge and run as they dodge the fire from the guards, jumping at the last second to grab onto the ship before it leaves. When a soldier also jumps and lands on top of Tae-ho, it pulls at Dorothy until they're both falling. The soldier makes a perfect landing and gets ready to catch the girl, but Tiger swings by and catches her first. After everyone is on board, Tae-ho flies out as fast as possible. There are missiles following them, and one explodes too close to the ship, sending it flying into the debris field. Soon Victory begins to fail again, and the crew cannot keep up with all the repair work that had to be done, which now lets an nanobot infestation get into the ship. When all of them cover Victory, Dorothy turns on her powers and sends all of them away in seconds. Then she passes out, and Tiger notices that her heart has stopped, so he immediately starts CPR. To his surprise, Dorothy farts and wakes up as if nothing happened. Soon Victory leaves the debris field and picks up the news. which announced the crew members are now wanted criminals. They've been classified as members of the Black Foxes and even blamed for the attack at the club and the factory. At the same time, Sullivan is undergoing medical treatment while examining the files of the crew. Zhang was an engineer for the UT's Genius program and invented some important devices, but she deserted at 19 to form an anti-UTS organization. She attempted to assassinate Sullivan but failed, and her whole group died during the attempt. Tiger used to be a cartel leader on Earth who fled the planet to escape capture since he was sentenced to death. He will be executed immediately if ever caught. Tae-ho was the first commander of the Space Guard and the first soldier whom Sullivan carried into the company in his own arms. Moments later, a message from the Foxes lets the Victory crew to meet inside some old colony. Soon they get aboard and Dorothy runs to reunite with Kang. Meanwhile, Zhang notices some strange thing. This place is covered with the EMP explosives that then activate, shutting down all of the ship's systems plus Bob's. This moment the soldiers go aboard Victory, shooting down the Foxes before kidnapping Dorothy. Zhang's crew tries to help her, but the soldiers quickly knock them down. The trio only gets arrested, but all the Foxes are killed including Kang. Sullivan arrives and puts a hand in Zhang's mouth to extract the microchemical bomb that she almost used for self-destruction. He doesn't kill anyone because of their shared history and instead monologues about his plan. Then he drops some money as payment for Dorothy, in turn mocking Tae-ho for catching it to find his daughter. After that, Sullivan instructs his people to put Dorothy in the factory and crash it on Earth. Then he appears as a hologram in front of all UTS citizens and announces Mars is ready to be inhabited. Back in Victory, Tae-ho is collecting his part of the money, but the others consider it dirty and don't want it. In fact, they want to rescue Dorothy and ignore Tae-ho when he says they'll die trying. While Dorothy is tied to the hydrogen bomb, Tae-ho goes to the search company and pays them to find his daughter. While waiting, he looks at her old things and finds some loving words she wrote for him, even though during those days he was only a drunkard that ignored her. Realizing he's doing the same now, Tae-ho runs back to Victory and agrees to help rescue Dorothy. As Tae-ho flies as fast as he can, Zhang takes her old gun out from her days as a rebel and stands outside the ship to start firing at the incoming soldiers. She can't keep up with everything, so Bubs comes out and starts swinging among the enemy ships, destroying them with her harpoon. Unfortunately, the harpoon breaks and Bubs has to go back. Tae-ho instructs Tiger to push the machinery to its limits and starts flying toward Earth, then yanks Victory back at the last second. The missiles behind them are too slow and burn down, crossing the atmosphere. A few ships are still tailing them, but Victory moves fast and makes it into the factory just in time. The crew rushes into the gravity chamber and rescues Dorothy. Zhang checks the programming of the bomb and finds out that the detonator is inside, so it will explode if she tries to hack it. They have to take Dorothy over 5,000 kilometers away so the shockwaves will not destroy her nanobots. That discussion is interrupted by the soldier, who quickly knocks Tae-ho and Zhang out. Tiger orders Dorothy to run back to the ship, but Bubs attempts to fight the soldier. However, she is defeated as well. Tiger tackles the soldier into a corridor and locks the door behind him. Tiger attempts to fight back his best, but the soldier is too strong, beating him up with ease. Tiger, desperate, opens the hatch to pressure change of the room. Both are sucked out by it. With his axe, Tiger kills the soldier and comes back into the chamber. They prepare for leave when they heard that attack drones are incoming. Zhang opens communications with other sweepers, explains Sullivan's plan, and appeals for help. Zhang flies Victory out of the factory as fast as possible as Zhang shoots as many drones as she can. Once they get outside, they find all the factory workers and other sweepers waiting in their ships. By coordinating, the sweepers begin bringing down dozens of drones at the same time with remarkable aim, so Zhang's crew is able to fly safely away to save Dorothy. Meanwhile, the recording of Sullivan's monologue made by Victory is sent to the news, and now all humanity knows the truth. A furious Sullivan leaves in his own ship and finds Victory, opening fire to stop them. Jang fires back as Taeho flies as fast as possible, but all the shaking causes some metal to fall and trap Jang under it. Suddenly Sullivan uses a mechanical arm to hit Victory and slams Jang out into space, away from the ship. The next thing, Sullivan is climbing on top of Victory, so Bubs tries to stop him and gets chopped in two. A wounded Jang holds onto the ship and makes it to the booster system to activate the booster just in time to send Victory into a flying speed that heaves Sullivan off. Unfortunately, the booster doesn't last long and Sullivan reaches Victory again and breaks it open with the mechanical arms. Shockingly, he finds the bomb inside. He soon discovers that the crew took the bomb along with them while leaving the factory and dropped Dorothy along with the other sweepers before flying away. This way they become the bait for Sullivan and saved everyone simultaneously at the cost of their own lives. The rest of the sweepers witness this incident with tears as the bomb explodes, killing Sullivan and destroying Victory. Meanwhile, at this point Dorothy triggers her powers and masters the nanobots, which brings out the biggest piece of Victory out of the explosion without any damage to the crew still inside it. Sometime later UTS apologizes for the cover-up and promises to start working on restoring Earth. The sweepers are paid very well for their heroism, so their debt is gone and Bubs finally has the body she wanted. Taeho takes Dorothy to the search company and she connects to the nanobots in the debris area, which allow her to search for his daughter's DNA. A projection of her body appears and Taeho meets her in the astral plane to say goodbye. The crew adopts Dorothy and lives like a happy family as Earth becomes green again.